Nigel, to our podcast. And thanks for being here today with us. With all the advancements that we've seen in lead acid over the years, certainly, I mean, you're going from flooded lead acid, and we went to the seal valve regulated AGMs or gel. And now we've got these foam core AGMs. What's your thoughts? I remember still you had said in that presentation that years ago we were all attending, like, lead acid batteries are, they don't die, they're murdered, is the expression that you said. And I've reused that, Nigel. I can't tell you how many times I've reused that because, oh man, is it true. People just give it to the batteries. So tell me a little bit about the state of the batteries, of lead acid batteries, and what's your take on, for boaters and cruisers out there that want to go out? Tell me a little bit more.
Well, the first thing is, if you're not in a hurry, to wait a year or two. The lead industry is pumping millions and millions of dollars into research to improve AGM batteries, to make them competitive with lithium ion. And they now have the capability at the Argonne National Lab in the USA, one of these federally funded labs, where they can watch what's going on inside a battery at fundamental levels of physics and chemistry while the battery is in operation. So all development in the past has been empirical. You change something, the electrolyte or the plate, and you test it and see what happens. But now they can see in real time what's going on inside the battery. And we've known forever that even when we 100% discharge a battery, we're actually only using 50% of the theoretical capability of a lead acid battery. So we've never been able to figure out how to unlock the other half. So if they come even close to doing that, then we're going to see a dramatic improvement in the capability of lead acid batteries. And then the other two things they need for the mild hybrid automotive world. Mild hybrids are the one that when you stop at a traffic light, the engine shuts off. And then as soon as you hit the accelerator pedal, it cranks up again. So the battery is cycled thousands and thousands of times at a high level of charge. But then they also want to be able to recover the braking energy. So they need to maintain the battery in a partial state of charge so that when you brake, you can put that energy into the battery. So, as we know, if you put a lead acid battery in a partial state of charge, it dies from sulfation. So they need to cure the sulfation issue. They need to get a very high cycle life, and they need to get higher energy density. And if they get even one of those things, let alone three of them, lead acid batteries are going to get a lot better quite quickly. So we need to keep an eye on that. And at the moment, by far the best lead acid technology for our purposes is the Firefly battery with the carbon foam plates. For the simple reason that it's an AGM battery, so it has the normal AGM characteristics in terms of charge acceptance and so on. But you can operate it in a partial state of charge for weeks at a time, and it doesn't sulfate. And it's the only lead acid battery in the market that doesn't sulfate. It acts like it's sulfating. At every cycle, you see the capacity diminish a little bit. But when you get the opportunity to do a normal full charge again, those sulfates all go back into solution, and it goes back to 100%.
Do you know why that's the case?
Yeah, well, I think I do. I know physicists, but the negative plate is made from a sheet of foam, literally. So it's got a tiny pore structure. And when they make the batteries, they create a vacuum in the battery and they suck the paste into that plate.
Okay.
And then when you leave a battery in a partially discharged state, the paste turns to lead sulfate. And it's in a crystal form. And initially, the crystals are very small and they're easily recharged. But if you leave it like that, they grow together into bigger crystals. So first of all, they have less surface area collectively. So it takes longer to recharge them. And secondly, they become more resistant to charging. So the battery slowly refuses to take a charge. And then unless you crank the voltage up well above a normal charging voltage, you can't recover those sulfated crystals, the big ones. So then the next time you discharge it and leave it in a discharged state, some more of those happen, and you get a progressive loss of capacity. Well, I think the pore structure in the foam is too small to allow the crystals to grow to the size where you can't recover them with normal charge rates. I think it's as simple as that. So I may be totally wrong.
Yeah, the inventor is nearby. Isn't the inventor of that battery?
He lives here in Maine, down the road from us, 20 miles. Yeah. He's a
Very
really
neat.
neat guy.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I have 6 batteries on. I mean, I've got Firefly on my boat. One of the challenges, of course, is that minimum 0.2C that they want as a charge rate,
Well,
which
no,
is
actually, they want 0.4.
well now, yeah, they ideally they want point
Right.
0.4. Minimum
Yeah.
is 0.2.
Right.
0.4 is almost impossible to give in most
Not
situations.
if you have one of these super high-powered alternators. I mean, that's another reason for putting all these pieces together as a package.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's, I mean, the luckily thing is at least the power motors that have generators, what we end up doing is stacking multiple inverter chargers,
Yeah.
or adding multiple chargers. The most I've done ever is 350 amps at 24 volts. So basically 700 amps of charging at 12. And it was on about an 80 footer and on 12 of those Firefly L15s.
Uh-huh.
So 900 amp hours at 24 volts. And we were able to, off the generator, I mean, the generator is massive. It was like, I don't know, 30 kilowatt or something.
Uh-huh.
It was huge.
Yep.
And they could literally run in concurrently one inverter charger and 2 of those chargers. And it was a little bit the dream that you had talked about having even a large boat like that, an 80 footer, which is basically bigger than a house. Literally being able to recharge their batteries in a couple hours.
Yeah.
And in a couple hours, doing an hour at night, an hour in the morning, and at reasonable times, they're literally running the rest of the boat. The other 22 hours, the boat is running off batteries.
Yep. And during those 2 hours, they could maybe run the washing machine or cook.
Yeah. Water maker.
Whatever. Yep. Yep.
Yeah.
We took some of those Firefly batteries, and I would run them for a month at a time in a partial state of charge. I would cycle them for between 10 and 20% state of charge and 60%. And the minute the charge acceptance rate dropped below 0.3C rate, I shut them down. So that was my cutoff threshold. And over the month, I did this every day. You could see the whole battery would walk down a little, just like it was self-rated. At the end of the month, I would stick it back on an extended charge cycle at 14.4 volts, your normal charge cycle, and it would go back to 100% state of charge. And then I do it again for the next month. So I did that for 3 or 4 months at a time, 4 months that year, I think. And then I took the batteries and I discharged them down to 35% state of charge, and I let them sit for 8 months. So, and then I put them back on a normal charge cycle. They came back to 100% state of charge. And then the next year, I did a whole bunch of pretty aggressive and brutal treatment on them. I didn't break a single one of those batteries.
Also, if you found this video interesting, please subscribe. It honestly does help us to know that all this time that we're investing is actually we're reaching a lot of voters. And I want to thank all of you for watching. Thanks for spending some time with me.